I do believe the Supreme Court should step in.
So Mike Johnson knows the Supreme Court justice personally, and he knows how they feel?
Obviously, this is totally unprecedented, and it's dangerous to our system. I mean, we've all discussed this before, and you all talk about it all the time. This is diminishing the American people's faith in our system of justice itself. And to maintain a republic, you have to have that. People have to believe that justice is fair, that there's equal justice under law. They don't see that right now. And I think that the justices on the court, I know many of them personally, I think they're deeply concerned about that as we are. So I think they'll set this straight.
Wait, the Supreme Court, they're going to set this straight? You mean including the two justices who openly support Trump? Is that how it's supposed to work? What part of separation of powers don't you understand? Some things aren't meant to be together. It's wrong. It's incestuous.
Although she does have a very nice figure.
You know, the Republican Party once called Democrats snowflakes, but this GOP is without a doubt the largest collection of whiny little bitches to ever put on a pair of pants.
We could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment.
They had a heart attack when it was revealed that Judge Merchan had donated $15 to Biden's campaign. But seriously, Mike Johnson is taking steam baths with Alito and Thomas.
I know many of them personally.
Both of whom offered more than tacit support to the insurrection.
Alito sending 2 letters now to lawmakers who had called for his recusal after flying 2 separate flags seen as symbols of the so-called Stop the Steal movement.
And yes, it was an insurrection. Says who?
It was a violent insurrection for the purpose of trying to prevent the peaceful transfer of power after a legitimately certified election.
Last week's violent attack on the Capitol was undemocratic, un-American, and criminal.
And now Trump's appointee, Judge Cannon, is delaying Trump's trial till after the election, making it clear that the GOP is to law and order what Ted Cruz is to masculinity. Johnson, who crept into the speaker's role during a GOP catfight and whose grip on it is about as firm as Lindsey Graham at the Playboy Mansion, is the guy who jettisoned the border bill to protect Trump politically. In effect, he has delayed significant progress on the Republicans' #1 issue, keeping the border safe.
Speaker, lastly, the President of the United States, the former president who wants to be the next president, said one of his plans is, he talked to Time Magazine, is to round up the 11 to 15 million illegals and then go through them and find out who belongs here and who doesn't. Would you support that?
Absolutely. And President Trump and I have talked about this at length.
But Johnson topped himself when he stood with other Republican sheep outside the courthouse last week in their pathetic attempt to curry Fat Donnie's favor.
These people are sick.
And now, after the conviction by 12 jurors, handpicked by both the prosecution and defense, Johnson and the other Republicans act like 12-year-olds whose parents just took their phones away.
And the Republican Party is really, they stick together in this.
Unbelievable. Unfreaking believable. Joe Biden's 2-tier injustice system.
It's really sad, but it also illustrates how pathetically weak Republicans are. And now they're predicting violence and revenge on everyone from Alvin Bragg to regular Democrats.
When Donald Trump gets elected, should he start locking them up? No question. Should there be lists of Democrats that need to go to jail? 100%. And the reason for that is they've committed crimes. We need to make sure that when Donald Trump wins, we've got an attorney general, a deputy attorney general, a head of the CIA and the FBI. Kash Patel would be fantastic. We can have attorney general. There's some names floating around. And then they can start having their investigators and the feds issuing subpoenas, pulling up evidence, and with real evidence, bring them to judges for warrants. Then these people can spend three years of their lives fighting tooth and nail for the crime against the government for crimes they committed, and we can prove. Yeah. And the reason why we put them on trial is that we can show the whole world we will uncover what you've done. We will make sure everyone knows, and you will be held accountable for it.
Not just jail, they should get the death penalty. You know, we actually used to have the punishment for treason in this country.
They cut her off because they had to, but Trump will blather on and on about rig this and corrupt that.
A case where if they can do this to me, they can do this to anyone.
Johnson and the Republican members of Congress are bitching about a trial that even Trump's attorney accepts as just, albeit in his mind one that is headed to an appeals court. That's fine. But the real facade with the GOP is all they have is the same tired rhetoric about something being rigged or corrupt, but they offer nothing other than Merchan and the venue of New York. But if Merchan did something wrong, the appeals court will see it. But I agree that when the little boys cry about a 2-tier justice system, they have a point, although not the way they see it. Trump violated a gag order 10 times. Anyone else would be behind bars. But Merchan allowed Trump's diarrhea mouth to spill over.
Because this judge has given me a gag order.
there has to be some form of punishment.
And the venue was unfair? Are you high? New York may be blue, but 45% are Republicans. And all it would have taken is one MAGA on the jury. And ignore for a moment the fact that there were two MAGA Republicans on the jury, one a regular Truth Social user, and the other got his news from Fox. There's nothing in this case that anyone can say that was unjust or illegal.
Those jurors, selected by the prosecution and defense, finding Trump guilty on all 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to keep her story from voters before the 2016 election. A new Reuters Ipsos poll conducted immediately after the verdict, finding now 1 in 10 registered GOP voters saying they are less likely to vote for Trump. Since the guilty verdict, Trump has been unloading and lashing out. At one point Friday, making the outrageous claim that the U.S. is fascist.
But let's explore for a second why those two MAGA jurors voted to say guilty 34 times. Is it possible that when a MAGA troll is confronted with something that's not crawling out of Sean Hannity's mouth, it actually makes sense? That when you hear the full story and not these lies, which Fox and these little trolls stuff in their pants to try to seem more manly, you begin to realize that Trump is a viral threat to everything they actually care about. Law and order, their wives and daughters, the economy, Russia, and the border, to name a few.
And I could have done it, but I felt it would have been a terrible thing. And then this happened to me. And so I may feel differently about it. I can't tell you, I'm not sure I can answer the question. Hillary Clinton, I didn't say lock her up.
Lock her up is right.
I didn't say lock her up.
For what she's done, they should lock her up.
I didn't say lock her up.
Crooked, you should lock her up.
I didn't say lock her up.
Lock up Hillary. If she were to win this election, it would create an unprecedented constitutional crisis. In that situation, we could very well have a sitting president under felony indictment and ultimately a criminal trial.
But now the current Supreme Court resembles Trump's diaper after a long day campaigning. With two members of the Supreme Court openly supporting Trump and the other three Trump appointees, one of whom was in a weird as F Christian Handmaid's cult, the Supreme Court now resembles a backseat of Steve Bannon's car, a disheveled assortment of hate, anger, angst, and skin tags. But the Republican Party continues to prattle on how this is unconstitutional, even though Trump is a private citizen who over the last 5 years has been indicted 91 times, the meat of which involved his coup attempt and stealing and hiding top secret documents. Plus, he had to pay a $500 million fine for lying to the government and banks about the value of his properties, then a $100 million civil fine for raping Jean Carroll, and now 12 random people found him guilty without any doubt of 35 felonies.
Guilty on all 34 felony counts. That is the verdict here in this case.
But there is good news. As Republicans let this soak in, senators like Lisa Murkowski and Republican voters are waking up to the idea of a felon in the White House, and it's not sitting well.
Just lying to the American people.
Murkowski says he shouldn't be able to run. 53% of Republicans are saying he shouldn't run, and independents are saying they won't vote for a felon. And the people know this. If SCOTUS gives Trump immunity, that will resonate with Democrats and independents. And if they decide Trump must stand trial, the country will see there's something to the charges. Ideally, it would be great if we could put every GOP voter on a jury and let them hear the facts unfiltered. But instead, we will have to trust that America can see through the Fox bullshit and understand that Trump is not only the worst choice imaginable, but so are Republicans and the network that got us here.
Damn right. This isn't their Republican Party anymore.
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I'm Chip Franklin.